Okay, so I want to do a little bit more on this Murphy's board meeting. I think it works great for something that Donnie there was telling me, the floor shop manager, foreman, something along those lines. Really by title, we'll figure out exactly what that is later. I don't exactly have all the terms. I haven't got it through the inverse shadow problem yet. That's not to say the name doesn't synonymous, but there's a lot of names for it. Whichever one they like better. So I just posted that one up there about the Murphy's board meeting. So there's a few ways to do it in terms of what I'm planning, like what I would do for the schematics on that crew apprenticeship, down in the junior masons. I really haven't heard it, and there's certainly not anything short of the little Gestapos. I mean the little masons over there at the Mason Association, the apprentices, right? Uh, and in there obviously that goes to a message that's spread across the board. Now I like Donnie's mission. I like the way he brings up the box and everything like that. So to piggyback off of that, there is some video time stuff with stuff that really actually has to happen, like video failure or machine stuff. And it's like the only way to really quantify it is to kind of show you and send you the video if you don't really understand it, and through communications of the inverse or the vector positions, right? So you take that model and you go, well, there's a couple of problems with it. Firstly, it's, there's an in without the meeting, there's an in with a meeting, but they all kind of correlate to the same problem. It's like you have to kind of like step series your way through it. Like, so you kind of figure out which ones are the best ones. Here, we kind of want to start off heavy. And like, here's a middle ground. It's not the whole company, but there's parts of all facets that are connected into some way with a junior for where that position is. And obviously the line works a lot like that. A lot of stuff in the office work like that. You got sentinels, you got secretaries, the quills for the masons, you got the sergeant at arms, and whatever positions they kind of correlate to by a standard. A lot of research, a lot of research. And so it's like, again, that gives me an easy Murphy's board to then say, well, let's parallel that. Now that I've given you kind of the contextual information, let's house that. And then, like I said, you don't really want to go over 15 minutes a day. But what I want to do, and when I say 15 minutes a day, I don't mean stop working. I mean, like, there's a setup. Like, so there, there's like a ground guy technique, and the loader comes in, loader comes out, and there's not a lot of time. Not a lot of time, but there's enough time to press a button in terms of what that is, whether that be record or separate a trim video from the overhead or the underhead. The overhead has a hard time with what happens in communication and what information is and how that process works. Equally, like the communication here doesn't have the really good oversight oligarchy type base of what that nature is. And so that's super critical to understand what gravity is. And so they give you a good insight on those. So because I've got a little practice on slipping it in there, that gives me a tactical advantage not to be so concerned, at least so concerned, with what it is on the other side. I could sell that for marketing through the company on Donnie's mission, right? On the foreman's mission, on anybody's company's mission. So it plays really nice. And so you had to figure that out. Like I said, you don't. What I did in the other mills is I'm sure I could have just gone balls out on a review of OSHA level standards on what they are, but that's pretty monotonous. I mean, that's clear everything, do everything. It's hard on the working operation, and so you want to switch that off. When can I get that out there? What for me would be, like I said, I mean, there's nothing like the fresh cookies of the real, and then the journey onto that Shangri-La shop. But to clean that off for early phase when there's really not a set of that out there, you would want it set up like that. Because we'll find another one like that that's one of those ketters that are buried under the backyard, and later on, and how we deal with it, how it affects other things, actions at spooky distances in the mill. But like I said, that's because you've singled them out in such a way where the review on the information, on, off, here's the brief, boss, are so synonymous with one another. And through technology and some of those other ways, you can transmit that if you want, because you want to definitely double down on those things. So loading blocks and stuff like that, they kind of go, I've been doing this for a while. Hopefully I can get that in the mill again. and then like I said, then you integrate it off into Steven, which I think is the best part because he's the Orpheus serpent bearer of the pythons over there. So, when it comes to all the kerf information, all the block load and read and rock for blocks and billets and loaders for the time management of that system, he's got it all basically memorized for sets and turns. This is one, or there's three of these, one of those and one of those, or two of those and two of those for entire 8-hour days. Like the operation itself takes those kinds of things really precise to what those measurements are within the approximate squishiness of the block. So we don't really need to get into details. You don't need companies' names. You don't need clients' names. You're always trying to find the positive in it, because whether it's negative later or not, just because it comes up in context here, that becomes the functional right answer. Obviously, that tilts some things later on. It's nice when you have some people that can leverage into that and make it worth it. And, so because that's usually the problem on the other side of it, short of some other stuff. Well, like I said, it's lucrative in the way that it's not money or monetary, but it has an effect in a way that works like that. Sometimes favors, sometimes fringe benefits, sometimes, just the name when gravity comes around for calculus. So, it's an arch build, man. Tomb and everything else. Because that's how fast they can go. So like I said, having those houses on those, just trying to fit in an extra operation or something, that's how people lose stuff, that's how people do stuff. But if those operations are then calculable to being outside of that form, you were trained it, you know it, anytime that's out of that operation consistently from the side, you leverage on it, and that gives you that huge turnover for that variable on it. Like I said, you give them a little bit, maybe it's the block load, and whatever takes 15-20 minutes, figure out that operation, then the next day kind of camp in the next cell for what that is in operations with new blocks and new systems, and then kind of jump off into another saw, and then just come in, I'm doing this, that's the lead from here. That's always what you're doing from that position, because realistically you don't know. Now I do have a bit of a tactical advantage in the information, but like I said, that gives me that advantage where I'm looking for it instead of trying to undermine a situation. It certainly comes up. And there's certain things about gravity that are just, it happens. But again, that's why you want that information, because then you can kind of stand on the moral side of the conversation. It's like, I tried everything in the power of making a better place, doing the right system, getting it done, and not missing off the block while trying to maintain cleanliness in this area and those things, because they're mathematical cleanliness, wobbles, weebles, that's the trippy bits on the floor, the rocks you kick, the stickers in the mud puddle. And then eventually you can kind of go back off and overall, or again, bust that down the line, start taking that from those guys, give them a backlog of their history, their careers. That's an opportunity for some kid to say, hey, that's why you want to learn over there at Indian Country or one of these other mills. We do have competition with ourselves, that it's business, but at the same time, it's nice for the guys to be able to switch off for experience and position sometimes. It's just one of those realities in life, and you'd be glad that you gave it to the guy as much as they had the opportunity to get it and use it. And if they choose not to use it, it's that horse that dusts them every time. You step off of that thing, it's going to clip you hard. You knew it, you did that system, and also to them, like I said, it's an immediate thing that you get to train off to them, and then they get for whenever that, lawful, even the drill sergeant, we all got cameras, right? Got cameras. Something didn't seem right in there. We can always test the parameters of that through a court case later, or a housed incident to determine what math is at a better function inside of that model, because you'll want to do that. That's what you want that respect for. That's why we do that. And overtly, because that would make you the winning argument. That would make you in a fair system where against those values you can't really do it. And as long as most people are running pretty hard, it's hard to argue with them. I think it's a lot of fear and anxiety about that situation. It's like, but a lot of people don't necessarily have that type of mathematical backing where they can form a system like that. They don't necessarily have that scientific value. And certainly for myself, I don't have that military standard, but I'm sure they got to be pretty close, at least to relative concepts. And again, so hopefully that's something I can bring into the addition to the mission here. And like I said, once that's all kind of down for the most part, because like I said, when you're looking for guys and you get a new one coming in, you can expect something to be a little bit messy. I mean, that's your high quality problem. You want to dust that stuff off and do the job, because that's the first hit. You want to do that safely. That's the on the other side where you're not really making a product. Quality in terms of it goes to more of a quantity subject matter, where quality starts to be the number of all these sub operations, and exactly the moment you get to the front of it isn't so relative anymore when they see you doing one of those operations, but it's immediately done, windowed into there, and the walk off into the saw was they had to finish that up over there. Just because they're not back over here doesn't mean that wait time isn't totally Shangri-La for what that moment is supposed to be. And of course, when it's not, it's not. So every day you could chase that rabbit forever, every day, forever. Try to cut it down where you're doing that working operation. You might need to take it down until your team dynamics get really good, or you figure out some other mech that makes that a lot easier for transition. And like I said, board meeting the crap out of that stuff. Skid steer, safety videos, hearing tests, and of course that's for them on their department of it. And if it works good for them, it should work great for me. And give me an advantage off into that set when I'm done doing what I'm doing here. Of course, it is what it is, and that's the game. So, that's generally where I'm looking for it right now. Obviously, to see the wavelength in the background and stuff in the office, I'm going to break this down into full spectrum. Infrared, X-ray vision on block, just watching that bunny hopping around the floor. Bye! All the way to the bone. As Zcoin blockchain, farming the bits out of that solar farm. You hook up all the photons to the panels, oh yeah. So like I said, hopefully I can really dust that off and bring that into the Bluestone Militia and then get that fire started so they can get that moving off over there. Oh yeah, Zeus. Oh sure. Where you been, brother? Catch you on the next one.